be away. Brad was called away today on another matter, and Karen Weiner is in that lovely world of budgeting that I'm betting Karen would like to be here. So she's still working through some things on budgeting. We'll go ahead, and I know Henry just stepped out, but let's go ahead and get started with our introduction.
Chip Boyles with Thomas Jefferson Planning District and MPO.
Morgan Butler with Southern Environmental Law Center.
Mark Graham, Albemarle County.
Satyendra Kujamir, Charlottesville.
Henry Weinschneck, Express Card. And technical, Allison?
Allison Econ CTV member.
Joel Denuncia, Charlottesville Residency, VDOT. Dave Covington, Charlottesville Residency.
Debbie Messina, Fellowship at Conduit.
Lou Hatter, 29 Solutions Communications Manager and pinch hitting for technical support.
Lou's our live stream driver today. If anyone needs a restroom, it's out the door to the right down the hall. If we have to leave this space for any reason at all, out the front door, turn to the left, and then our rallying point is the employee parking lot behind this building. For those that happen to be tuning in on live streaming, if you go to route29solutions.org, advisory panel meetings, you'll see the agenda as well as the presentation that's up for today. I hate to get too far without Henry, but he won't mind. As far as our live streaming audience last week, I think we had a little bit more activity, probably because some folks knew the secretary was going to be here. The number of viewers was up a bit from the June 25th meeting. I think the number of streams, which was dramatically up, tells me that people kept checking in to see if the secretary was talking yet. And the average minutes per stream was a little less, because probably after he finished, some other people just said, well, that's enough of that. On Lou. As far as interaction and feedback, that did pick up, all basically to do with one particular item. The Route 29 Solutions inbox got 13 emails. There was finally one new posting on the input section of the website. No calls to the hotline. Chris, I think other than me testing it, we haven't had any calls.
We had 2 tests.
Two tests, okay. Yeah, okay. 12 emailed comments and the one comment on the website all dealt with the Hillsdale-Greenbrier intersection and this question of whether or not there'll be a traffic signal there. And that's generated enough interest that we actually have an agenda item on that. So we'll talk a little bit about that at agenda item 9. One comment was really just a general routing comment that came in on the email box from somebody that apparently lives on Ryle Road East, based on the comment, lives on Ryle Road East and wanted to know how to get to the airport during the closure period. Lou sent them several options, detour options, as well as a copy of the MOT graphic. So that was our activity there. From our last meeting, there was some feedback saying, hey, this is great, we're getting a little bit more money from the state on the business assistance program. We'd like to know how that's going to work out. We'll talk a little bit more about that under agenda item 7. And then, I think it might have been Pete, but somebody said, hey, we really want to hear a little bit more about this TODS, the tourist-oriented directional signing program that we're going to use during construction. And we do have agenda item 8 to talk a little bit more about that later today. If there aren't any questions so far, we'll go to our open discussion period for any suggestions that any of y'all might have or items that you want to bring up before the next meeting. Henry?
Well, since I missed last meeting, and you will be able to update me, I'll pass.
Okay, okay. Mayor? Okay.
I don't know if you're going to cover it or not, but just want to say I attended the secretary's briefing to the joint, make sure I did it right, I'm still learning, Senate and House Transportation Committee. Felt it went very, very well, very good questions from the committee to him.
Good.
He spent some time talking about the additional funding for the marketing too.
Uh-huh,
So it went
okay.
really, really well.
Okay, good, very good, very good.
If I may, there was one item I just wanted to flag.
Mhm.
At our last meeting, when we went through the different architectural
Mhm.
suggestions, there were a number of items that VDOT is going to consider further in some shape or form. One of the items that will apparently continue to be worked on is the landscaping plan for the bridge deck.
Yes.
I just wanted to kind of keep those things in circulation.
Yeah.
Get an update on those on us.
Abs-
Update us on those as
Absolutely, absolutely. VDOT is still in the midst and the contractor of reviewing a lot of submittals, mostly aimed toward right-of-way issues and those are, we're not going to lose
Yeah.
track of those. But don't hesitate to keep us
Dave
reminded.
mentioned maybe some time before we get back to those. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure they don't fall completely off of
Yeah.
the panels.
Absolutely, absolutely.
While we're on landscaping, I noticed at the meeting that I missed that there's some green markings on the places where the crossovers are going, the temporary crossovers are going to be.
Right.
Going to be landscaped. My question is there going to be an attempt to restore trees of the same type? I realize not the same size, but of the same type that were there before.
We pretty well have a blank slate at this point.
Yeah.
We welcome
For those two
suggestions.
areas, right?
Yeah, for those two
Yeah.
areas. If the desire is to replace trees of a certain type, or the ones that were removed, or they're consistent with those that are currently in the median, absolutely, that's on the table.
But shouldn't that be part of this
Yes.
landscape submittal that we'll
Yes,
see at some point in the future?
not just the bridge,
Yeah.
the overall project.
Your question or
Yeah.
comment is more directed toward at least the same type. tree, which makes sense.
Because when we planned for those trees, we had like 2 years of debate what trees to plant.
Yeah,
And
okay.
we got all kinds of people involved. And
Sure.
eventually, we had somebody who is an expert in urban trees to
Right.
tell us what to put there, because before that, a whole bunch of amateurs, and I was one of them, came up with all kinds of trees, and eventually somebody set it straight. So
Okay,
that's why I think.
Okay.
I agree with Henry. We need to replace trees. They're an important part of the road.
yes. Okay,
So anyway,
All right.
that's
okay,
a small
very
point.
good.
But,
Well, no, that's important. Thank you. Okay. As far as our schedule, the 100% roadway plans for Rio came in on July the 17th. The bridge plans came in about a week ahead of that, I think. The next thing that's anticipated as far as a full submission, I didn't put a check mark beside it yet since it's not August the 7th, but there's every indication that tomorrow the 60% plans on Berkmar will come in. If they come in tomorrow, do you think we'll be able to get them up tomorrow or Monday? Well, they'll either be up tomorrow or
Yes.
Monday.
We will, depending on what time, we'll try to get them up.
I'm going to take a guess that the same people that have asked for printed copies would like to see those. There's been 5. I know Henry, Pete.
Okay.
I can't remember. Mark, Morgan, and a 5th. I can't remember. But we'll take care. I'll get a note out to you guys and make sure you get the half size set like we've been doing.
And I'm happy to come somewhere and pick them up. They've been generously dropped off the prior times, so I don't want y'all to feel like you have to do that. Appreciate it.
Usually we
It-
go ahead and go out and drop them all off.
To be honest, it's probably, I mean, that's nice, but it's just as easy once somebody gets set off with them. We're going to ask Henry to deliver them.
Well, I get my job back at UPS.
That's right, that's right.
Maybe I can help.
That's right, that's right. If there's not anything else, then Dave, why don't you go ahead and get this out of your way and do the updates on the projects.
Okay. As usual, we'll start off with 29-250 interchange. Work this week, they're continuing grading operations in the median. If you've driven by, you've probably seen that grade's getting pretty close to where the ultimate median will be, so a lot of work's been done there. Most of the drainage has been installed, under drains, backfilling up the grade. Began construction of the retaining wall at Best Buy. They've been working on the excavation for that retaining wall. If you've driven through the ramp, you've seen that excavation on the right-hand side. That's the smaller wall on the project. So this week, they're actually starting the foundation for that. Continuing excavation and shoring for the 250 wall. This is the primary wall that runs parallel to the Route 250 additional lane, the ramp lane there. So that's one of the biggest items on the project that's being started. Continue stormwater management excavation and update temporary striping. They had a little lull in excavating the stormwater basin that's in the southwest quadrant for the interchange. Now they're going back to that, continuing that excavation. Also, update temporary striping. We did learn that there was an area that was a little too narrow, so they've gone back this week and restriped the section of northbound lanes as you approach the hydraulic intersection. So we get a little bit more width there in the outside lane, a little too narrow. And begin installation of storm drain structures along these Barracks Road exit ramps. So this is brand new work. Previously, they had just done clearing in that area. Now they're actually installing the storm drains. Work next week, complete construction of the Best Buy ramp, the retaining wall. That's the small wall there that we talked about just a minute ago. Continue grading in the median. So this is now finishing up the under drains, getting it prepped for roadway widening and construction of the raised median area, and continue excavation of the shoring along the Route 250 retaining wall.
When we take a step back and look at the project with that May 23rd, or I forget the exact.
May 21st.
That deadline, how are things going at that sort of broader scale? Are things on schedule for the most part?
They are on schedule.
Yeah.
The most critical item is that Route 250 retaining wall, so they're getting ready to start that on time. So right now we are on schedule to complete it on or ahead of schedule. Right.
Dave, you want to talk just a little bit about the yield sign?
Yeah, we did have, over the past month.
If you'll recall, last time we met, that morning, there had been another little mishap, and VDOT went back and still trying to take, as new information comes in, take it into consideration.
Well, obviously, we're trying to create the safest condition possible as the ramp merges onto 250. And in doing that, our work zone safety coordinator took a close look at it, daytime operations, nighttime operations. He didn't propose a change, but to supplement the signs that are out there. So there's a new sign on the ramp that says no acceleration lane ahead. So that alerts people that I'm going to be merging directly into traffic here. And later this week, another yield sign will go up on the right side. So we'll have the yield sign that's been there on the left side for quite some time, plus the yield sign on the right side, and then a yield bar, pavement markings that go across the ramp to help alert people that I need to slow down and or stop.
The yield bar is a row of triangles.
It's flat on one side,
Yes, I saw
and then
it.
it has the row of triangles. So
I saw it yesterday, and it's very good. I think it's very helpful.
So those improvements, I think, will help make it a safer situation there in a work zone. We have not had any injuries involved with any of these accidents. They've all been rear-end collisions where somebody should have been paying a little more attention and bumped into the bumper of the car in front of them that stopped to yield to a car on 250. So a little update on that. We'll continue to keep you updated if we make any other changes, but right now we aren't anticipating any other changes to that interchange. Any other questions on 29-250? Okay. Adaptive signals. This is, I'm calling this additional work. This isn't really part of the scope of the original adaptive signal project. But these are improvements that, again, will help us with MOT during construction of the other projects. So the first is the Berkmar signal. The work this week includes the preparation for boring conduit. They are about 3 weeks early on the geotechnical exploration, the geotechnical report, and the foundation design for the signal poles. So the next step is boring conduit on the road. I just mentioned that they're early on completed the report and the exploration and the foundation design. Upcoming work, obviously, boring the conduit, and the other additional work item for the adaptive signals is the hydraulic RIO loop, extending communications to those signals and putting cameras up so that the Traffic Operations Center can make changes to those signals instantaneously instead of waiting for a signal technician to come out to rearrange the green time, red time during specifically next summer when the interchange is under construction at RIO. So any questions about the adaptive signal work?
Dave, what about the testing that doing a few weeks ago, just to make sure that the phase one was operating?
Periodically, they've been going down the corridor at I guess kind of random intersections and doing real quick tests in the middle of the night, sending it to all yellow flash mode, and they've all responded. There was one minor glitch a while back that was actually a software issue on the signal technician's computer rather than the signal. So it didn't impact the signal, it's just he noticed there was a glitch, found out there was a software issue.
So that's been
yes.
fixed?
Yeah.
Okay.
It really, basically it was just updating software.
Okay.
Not an issue with the signal at all. So to my knowledge, they're complete with all the tests that they're going to do. They're satisfied that everything is responding the way it should be. They can see all the cameras. So everything seems to be working as planned.
All right.
Okay. Luke? Okay, RIO work this week. They are continuing with the Duck Bank A construction. This is getting close to complete. This is in the northeast quadrant. They've come around in front of the Sun Trust. They've completed that work. Gone under the entrance from RIO into Albemarle Square, the one just behind the Sun Trust. They're getting ready to set the last CenturyLink manhole in that area, and then they'll pretty much be done with Duck Bank A. I think it'll be another week or two, and they'll be out of that area. Duck Bank B is continuing. This is directional boring. You don't see a large open trench. They go out with a boring machine. It's all done underground. That's been going very well. They're ahead of schedule on the boring operations. Duck Bank C is a directional bore underneath of 29. I believe they're finishing that this week. And they are beginning the temporary crossover construction. Earlier this week, they've set some new poles out there. That's for the temporary signals at Berkmar and just south of Myers Drive. They're going to start the signal installation, I believe, tonight or tomorrow. So that signal will be going up. Each of those signals will be going up very soon. And then shortly after that, they'll actually start the work to build the crossovers. So over the next 2 or 3 weeks, you'll see those crossovers come in. Test pitting and thrust wall installation on the 18-inch water main. They are doing water line relocation now. They've moved on to the 18-inch water main for RWSA. This is right now, it's outside of the road in front of the mall, but they will be excavating the 18-inch water main in the middle of the road. They do have to pour a thrust wall due to forces from the water main. Go ahead and expose that, put in some valves. That's going to be happening in the very near future, at least according to the current plan, unless they change things in coordination with RWSA. We are having, every Tuesday night, we have a water line meeting where all the parties come together, RWSA, VDOT, the contractor, ACSA, to talk about the upcoming work. So far, everybody's very satisfied with the way that's plan has come together. Resubmittal of final roadway and bridge plans for RIO today. We just received those. We reviewed it last time. We made some comments. They made a few changes to the plan. We submitted it so we can review it again. And I mentioned the temporary signal installations at Berkmar and Myers already as part of the crossovers. So Work next week, again, duct bank A construction, CenturyLink tie-in. When they finish the duct bank, all the utilities will come and pull their wires through it. So there'll be 3 or 4 weeks where they're pulling wires. Dominion comes in, CenturyLink comes in and pulls all their wires. They'll be starting that over the course of the next week or two. Duct bank B, they will be finishing up on the boring and tying into those manholes that they've installed. Continue the construction of the temporary crossover and the signals. Continue water line relocation and deactivation of the existing signals, the 2 signals that are coming out of the project at the north entrance to Fashion Square Mall and at Albemarle Square. We're expecting that in late August. So they finish up the temporary crossovers, activate the signals, the temporary signals, and then deactivate the existing signals. So the crossovers are in place before those signals come out. Any questions on the line?
Trying to make sure I understood that. Does that mean the crossover, the signalized intersection, Albemarle Square is closed this month?
Late this month.
Okay, all right. Wanted to make sure I understood that.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions on the line?
He was adding permanently closed.
Permanently closed, yes. And we have, Lou's been going around, Lou and Chris Reed have been going to the businesses that will be affected by that and notifying them of that upcoming closure. Yes. Okay.
That's real critical in terms of our communications and that. How people are going to get around to make sure that folks aren't thinking that that was a 2016 activity, that that's happening shortly.
Yeah. And that's usually we've been focusing on 2 weeks ahead of when something's going to occur. Due to the sensitivity of those signals, we've looked at more like 3 or 4 weeks. Make sure we hit every business, make sure everybody knows well in advance so it's not a surprise for anyone. We're also discussing it in some of the neighborhood meetings that we're having so that residents that use these facilities daily will know what to expect and how to get around.
I mean, August is now. We may want to, I don't want to get us off track, but Lou, we may want to think about some paid media to make sure that that's well advertised and how the detours, the temporary crossovers will work to get people to Fashion Square and to Albemarle Square.
The good news is we still have, right now, until next summer, we still have all the U-turn movements
Right.
at the Rio
Yeah,
intersection.
exactly.
So it's
Yeah.
and entrances off of Rio, Albemarle Square, Fashion Square, all the quadrants. So everybody still should know how to get around pretty well at this point.
I mean, if those are
Additionally,
I mean, it's August now.
Yeah.
So if those are going to be deactivated in August, it's a big deal.
yeah, we're expecting it's going to be probably the last week of August or the first week of September.
Okay.
Okay. About 29 Lightning, work this week, continuing with right-of-way negotiations and approved the advanced work package. We've discussed this probably for the last 2 or 3 meetings, just making sure everybody's aware. They've submitted a separate package for that project to allow them to begin work earlier inside of VDOT right-of-way and outside of jurisdictional areas. So they're going to fence off, I think there's one jurisdictional area in the area that they want to work in that'll be fenced off and won't be entered until they have permits to do so. So you'll start seeing barrier wall up on the 29 widening section pretty shortly here. It'll go up on the northbound lanes. There will be some additional pavement put on the southbound lanes. We call it build up to get rid of the crown. And then a barrier wall on the southbound lanes, and then they'll begin clearing the median. And then placing fill, raising some of the drainage structures. That's the type of work that's coming up. A little bit of work on the outside shoulder of the southbound lanes, generally down on the southern end of the project where we have a lot of right-of-way. So do be aware that that work is coming up. I expect that major work will start in September, but they'll get the barrier wall up because it's going to take quite a while. It's a lot of barrier wall to put up, so probably a couple of weeks of that. Work next week. you'll start seeing temporary construction signs going up for 29 widening in advance of that work. Installation of the barrier wall is expected again in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and median clearing in approximately 3 weeks. It might be a little bit more than that, so we're thinking beginning to middle of September. Any questions on 29 widening?
NBL stands for
Northbound lane, I'm sorry, northbound lane.
northbound lane. Yes.
Okay, Berkmar Extended work this week is reviewing the revised geotechnical report that was submitted yesterday, I believe. Receiving the draft acoustic monitoring report. This is for the northern long-eared bat. It's a new federal requirement because the northern long-eared bat was recently added to the list of threatened species. And property inspections for right-of-way. Work next week, completing property inspections and the final acoustic monitoring report, so we'll know the results of that, the bat study, and the ramifications of that are a time of year restriction. Generally, clearing is limited to September 15th through April 15th, so you can't clear in the spring and summer. You have to do it the fall and winter. Any questions on Berkmar? And again, reviewing the 60% plans as well.
Dave, the commissioner recently signed a memorandum of understanding with DGIF, Department of Game and Inland Fishery. It has to do with access at bridges, I think, boat access ramps. When I say recently, I mean last month, very recently. But that's come up a time or two with respect to the bridge at on Berkmar. I think that's something that we should talk to the commissioner about. And if there's some applicability here, we should understand what that might be and how that might work. There's a third agency.
Marine.
I don't know if it's VMRC. I just can't remember. But it just happened. Actually, I think it might have been the day the day the secretary was here of our last meeting. I can't remember. But I'll get some more information on it, and let's look at that together and see if might be some applicability here.
I could just say there's still a strong county interest
Yeah.
in a canoe launch there.
Right.
Underneath that bridge,
Right.
so. And our staff Parks and Rec staff has been in contact with DGIF about it, so.
DCR.
And DCR as well.
DCR, okay.
Yeah, but DGIF's the one that
Yeah.
we're talking to.
All the alphabet agencies.
Yeah, there we go.
But we'll check into that, and then I'll put that on an agenda for maybe the first September meeting. Give us a couple of weeks to look into it, and we'll bring that back.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on Berkmar? Okay. Since Chris isn't here, you want me to go ahead and do Hillsdale?
If you wouldn't mind.
Okay. And some of these I'm not completely aware of. These are city functions, and Chris provided these notes, but coordination with Fish and Wildlife and all the federal agencies for the northern long-eared bat, similar to what we were doing on the Berkmar project due to that newly listed threatened species. And they're seeking concurrence from those agencies, similar to what we've done. Conducting an updated noise study for that project, stakeholder committee meetings, recently had one, and they're sending out the responses to the comments. We also, VDOT performed a review last week and provided comments back to the city earlier this week on their revised right-of-way plan, so that's something they're just receiving those, going over those, and figuring out how to adjust the plans or responding to the comments otherwise, which is, they will respond next week to the comments. Also next week, finalizing wetland and stream impacts and completing the environmental reevaluation. And this is something that's done periodically as the project is updated. If there's any change to the project impacts, they go back and do an environmental reevaluation. And appraisal process continues on select parcels. Anybody have any questions on Hillsdale? I might be able to.
From the July 16th meeting, it said then that expecting final plan sets in 3 weeks, which would be now.
In 3 weeks on Hillsdale?
That's what it said from July 16th.
Yeah.
He may have meant the right-of-way, the revised right-of-way plans.
Okay. I'm just curious about that.
Yes.
And
I'm
I
not-
didn't know if the Greenbrier intersection might throw that off or,
No, it shouldn't.
okay.
It shouldn't change that.
One thing we want to do, maybe with, when Chris is back from vacation, talk with him and Jeanette, December, I mean, we're anticipating a December ad date.
Yes.
So,
We're getting there quickly.
yeah. We need to see what needs to be done in 4 months here.
I know there's been a lot of, well, obviously they've been in the right-of-way process on a lot of these parcels.
Right.
And then also coordination with utilities
Yeah.
is ongoing, and that's a critical aspect of getting to that point.
Are we in agenda going to discuss the Greenbrier and Hillsdale?
Yes, Mayor, we're going to discuss that, yes.
Any other questions on Hillsdale or any others? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Just a little report back from the job fair. I understand about 50 reps from small businesses attended the job fair or the DBE fair on July 16th, and about 40 folks showed up for the job and career fair on the 28th. And I understand Lane Corman is following up with some interviews with individuals who are interested in applying for jobs. So I really don't know how to put that in context for what we anticipated, but at least from what I've heard, I think Lane Corman was pleased with the response that came out of that. So it's good. It's good. Okay. The Secretary was here on the 16th, and for the purpose of saying that in addition to the specifically talking about the marketing part of the county's business assistant program, that since the county had approved the $100,000, that he would put in an additional $200,000 to add some meat to that marketing business assistant function. And what we're going to do is we're going to enter into an agreement with the Planning District Commission and flow that $200,000, I mean, obviously not in a personal sense, but basically to Chip. And then we'll be out of it. And we're going to rely on you working with the Business Assistance Subcommittee and the money that's available through the city to put that, county, I'm sorry, to put those, didn't mean to take your money, Mayor, to the county, to put those funds to the best use, in the most efficient manner. You're not going to have to develop programs and come back and ask for somebody's okay or any of that stuff. We'll rely on you working with the committee, the subcommittee to do that. I understand the agreement's being reviewed by the AG's office, but that's a pretty easy lift. I think that's something you and John can execute on your own. The only thing that I would ask, and I've said this before and I'll just repeat it here, not a demand by any stretch of imagination, but an ask, is that having been on both sides of government and business, I think business people are in the best position generally to decide what's meaningful assistance to businesses. And right now, I know we only have Pete on that subcommittee, and to the extent that you can reach out to not a large group, but a few more people, 2, 3 more people that would represent business interests, particularly in that intersection area, maybe a little balance between small business and larger businesses. I would appreciate the effort. I mean, really, that's all that's meant to.
And we've
Meant to say
already,
that.
we've met a couple of times since the announcement 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And have started reaching out to those businesses.
Okay, okay.
So it's already being done.
All right. And then, Chip, we'll rely on you each meeting to just give us some feedback on how things are moving. You know, it's, I mean, like we just said earlier, it's August, and we're going to be making some changes with signals. We're going to be starting more construction in the median there with the retaining walls. So things are going to be kicking up a lot, and I don't want to try to second guess what you all think is the best use of the funds. A total of $300,000 is a lot better than $100,000, but it's not $3 million either. I mean, so it's important to put the money to the best use, and we really appreciate you being willing to step up and serve that role to some extent as the fiduciary for the state's interest in that money. So thanks.
So, do you expect the agreements will be signed and everything on this will be up and running in the next few weeks?
I think probably before we have our next meeting.
Yeah. I think the point you made about needing to publicize the fact that those two signals are going to be permanently closing and educate people about how they can still get to those shopping centers. I just remember.
I don't mean to step, but I think that's more of a beat.
I was just going to say we're not going to nib into the business
Yeah.
assistance for that. We've got a communications budget that looked ahead to those types of activities, and that's what we need to think about that a little more. Well, not that we haven't been thinking about it seriously, but just realize that the time has come to do some of that.
Yeah.
Maybe if we could recap quickly what the business assistance program includes and what it doesn't include. Maybe-
I did not bring that list with me. Maybe you have it.
Okay. If you can remember the main.
Well, what I remember generally, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, I'll just talk in round numbers.
Yes.
It was about $170,000 in total. 100,000 of it from the county. 100,000 was for this general marketing.
Marketing and publicity.
Yeah, marketing,
Collective.
publicity, collective marketing. There was another piece that was a grant, more of a grant program that was, I think, meant to be matching funds
It could go directly to.
to businesses.
For
There-
advertising purposes.
Yes.
And then there was another, right. Then there was, I can't remember what the little.
15,000 that's earmarked to Small Business Development Center, SCORE, and others that will be able to work one-on-one to put together an individual's business plan or to work with them to try to take direct advantage of perhaps marketing to the construction company. It's really, that 15 really is just to help offset the cost of SCORE and Small
Right.
Business Development and those folks.
And what I had talked with the secretary about was if the county, I keep wanting to take the mayor's money, if the county comes through, I was basically focused on this $100,000, that it would be beneficial and appropriate in this case, which the state hasn't done previously, to match that money, and we settled on 2-to-1. So,
And one concern I have, and I think I brought it up before, is the phasing.
mhm.
Because essentially you have two phases. During the closure,
Right.
the businesses on both sides of Ryle Road are, they're going to hurt some, so they need, promotion. after the project is completed, the business on the sides of 29 now need to remind the public they're still there.
That's right,
And
that's
that-
right.
And that they're local
That's
lanes,
right.
and that, yes, you can drive on the local lanes.
Yeah.
And they're not just exit lanes,
That's
they're
right.
local lanes, and they're still there, and so on. So
There-
you may have to face it like,
There are three components that really tie together that I believe we need to maybe come to one of your business assistant subcommittees, because just as we talked earlier, there's our communications budget, which is pretty healthy to carry throughout this project as far as earned media for things like the traffic signals, construction alerts, those types of things. There's the Todd's construction signing program that is also outside of the county, of the business assistance program that we'll talk about in a little bit, that can be used to help advertise in a sense the location of businesses. Then there's the business assistance program. And at least from my point of view, ideally, the application of the business assistance fund shouldn't be to duplicate things that are already happening somewhere else, but to supplement the overall program and add additional efficiencies and productivity out of a total communications campaign. And I think, Chip, from the state's point of view, the one thing the state can't do is give somebody $1 to replace revenue or replace profit. Other than that, within the realm of good judgment and general marketing, collective marketing, how you manage that money. We're just really going to rely on you and then whatever program the county has to go through to put it to the highest and best use.
And Philip, if I might add, the schedule is, for WIO, is completion on or before December 2nd, 2016. Whereas the overall completion
Right.
is October 30th, 2017. And we'll talk about the Todd's plan
Yeah, that's
a little
next.
bit. But what we've said is, we acknowledge that businesses need that attention after the construction date.
and it's a different set of business.
Yes.
You have the RIO, you need during the closure, after you reopen, you need the other businesses to
Right.
be promoted.
But from a communications and assistance, and not just business assistance, but overall assistance perspective, our goal is October 30th, 2017, not December 2, 2016.
I understand what your finished project goal is, that from a point of view of the business, while you're under construction, for better or for worse, if I'm fronting, let's say I'm Chief, okay, all the traffic is going in front of my door, okay? The minute you open up under the bridge, a lot of the traffic is gone. And that's the time I need to remind people, hey, I'm still here.
Yeah.
And you still can get here.
And that's what I'm saying, is that our communications, our support through the Todd's program, all of that continues for almost a year after the completion of the project.
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the desire is that the funding is there for business assistance. The subcommittee determines how and when it's
Right.
used. We are not trying to influence that at all.
Right. But I'm dead on with what Henry is.
I understand
Henry's
you're
saying.
phasing.
Yeah.
This is a different phasing.
Yeah, no, I
Totally.
you're exactly right, and it's going to influence this next discussion on this Todd signing. Because what a particular business is going to be looking for soon, up to May of 2016, is different than what they will be looking for post-September 2016.
Right. September,
I
August.
do think
August, yeah.
there's got to be some very good, and there has been up to this point, so I'm not saying it hasn't, but really good communication from this group, the marketing, business assistants, and VDOT, and Lou sits in on it, so we have it, because there will be some overlap. I mean,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
there could be the opportunity where we're proposing the same type of things that you're already planning, and to keep, do that only if it's necessary, but don't do it if it's not necessary.
But this is why, again, not to make it a demand, but a healthy request. This is why business needs to be represented more robustly on the business assistance subcommittee, because those are the folks that are unlocking the door every morning, that have a keen awareness of how they might best be assisted. Doesn't mean you're going to be able to do everything everybody wants, but we need those ideas brought to. And if there's any way I can help talking to any businesses or whatever, be happy to do it.
If I had a business there, let's say, I would like to see a spot produced where you can see my business, and then you can see the signage that says business local, right? And say, we're still here, and this is how you get to us now.
Yeah.
Something like that,
And
they probably would be individual spots for individual business.
And what we've already gotten far enough along is trying also to get the best use out of both pots, the 300,000 and the 50,000 match, so that with the 300, we may produce a template, Route 29, whatever the catchphrases all are, but so that then a small business could very, very easily, there's a fill in the blank in the middle. They can put their picture, they can put an ad, a coupon, whatever, then that would qualify for the 50-50 match if
I'm
they
thinking in terms
wanted
of
to do.
TV spots, for example.
Yeah.
I would want
Same
TV
thing.
spots to show people that, A, I'm still here, and B, is how you get to me now.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So starting next meeting, Chip, we'll
We will.
have a little running.
And this group
item
meets
for you.
Monday.
Yeah,
Just to
okay.
let you know, that's
All right,
the next meeting.
Good. And you'll talk to them about more business representatives. Okay, good. All right. The Todd's construction sign. We talked early on about, just step back a minute, we talked early on about using this program as a method of producing some signing during construction that could be helpful to businesses, where businesses are located, and the names of the business. The idea is to supplement plans that already exist to demonstrate that the businesses at the intersection, and this term's been used a lot, are open for business, which I see I wrote open for businesses, but I guess there are more than one business there. And to increase awareness of the businesses that are located around that intersection, so we can decrease confusion about who is where, and I guess you should add to that when.
Well, and how.
And
you get there.
how.
How you get there is very important, because you get there differently
That's
than in
right.
the past.
That's right. That's
Especially
right.
if you are on the opposite side of the road where you want to go.
Yes,
Okay, essentially when you want to make left turns.
Right.
It's a different ballgame.
it is. Now, we did determine that the qualification criteria is not going to be waived. And if you go to this website, you'll see a guidance document, a PDF document, that is specifically geared toward the TODS program, and it has different categories and list of businesses, a list of activities that are included and that are excluded. My expectation is that any category that is not specifically excluded is included. And I think that's important because we've had some discussions about a couple of types of businesses and said, well, no, they're excluded. Well, if they're not on the list, in my judgment, they're not excluded. So this is something I think we need to manage very carefully, remembering that our intent is to help the broadest category of businesses unless there is a specific exclusion. A church isn't eligible for a Todd sign, for example, and that's listed there. If you're listed in the exclusion, then you're excluded. The application fee, I don't remember what that normally is, will be waived. The application fee would be waived. The annual fee for being on one of these signs would be waived through October 2017. If a business who participated in this program during construction chose to, a qualifying business who participated during construction chose to continue to be on a Todd sign after October 2017, that business would then pick up the annual fee. I don't think this is a big
Do you know what that fee is?
fee.
$450.
I thought it was under $500.
That should be manageable
Yeah,
for most businesses.
yeah.
And
But
again,
Go ahead.
you know, my criteria is that you should encourage to have businesses that have landmark buildings on there and not some insurance agency that's somehow, you know, behind another business or whatever.
Well, there are some criteria about not only the types, but distance and when they're open and when they're not. And the criteria is not going to be waived, but my hope is that it will be liberally applied unless there's a specific exclusion.
But
Now-
you also have a limited number of slots, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where I think it's important that you favor buildings that are landmarks, the Taco Bells, the Jiffy Lube, the Hess gas station, stuff that people recognize, rather than the storage behind the Hess gas station or the insurance agency behind Taco Bell, because people know how to get to that insurance agency if they know how to get to Taco Bell. Or
Okay.
to the storage if they know how to get to Hess.
Well, the VDOT is developing a agreement. Remember, we've mentioned before that Virginia Logos, that's a company, manages this program for VDOT. So VDOT is developing an agreement with Virginia Logos, and I presume that agreement has to do with VDOT picking up
Yes.
these fees.
And
The fees are waived for the businesses, they're not going away, but,
Well, we're paying for the installation cost.
right.
Virginia Logos is waiving the fees.
Yes,
So
okay,
both sides.
okay. So Virginia Logos is waiving the fees, VDOT is picking up the installation cost. That's underway now. This month, we're scheduled to begin distributing applications to businesses to see if they are interested and starting to install Todd signs for the first phase in October. So that's a blink and a sneeze away. So we need to continue to manage this schedule carefully. In 2016, the signs will be modified to reflect the May-September closure period. Start to notify owners of the end of the fee waiver period so they know that that's coming up the following years. And then in September of 2016, modify the signs to reflect the post-closure period. So here, Henry, in what you were describing earlier, in the first line, you still have the traffic on the same roadways as it is today. When you get to here, 2 lanes in each direction is now through the underpass.
50 to 70% of the traffic. Based on your numbers.
Yeah, what you're acknowledging are the correct numbers, right?
I
And then October 2017, as we mentioned, that's when the fee waiver period ends. To my knowledge, the TODS program, I mean, like a lot of other things we're doing here, the TODS program has not been used for something like this during construction. These are the, geez, correct me if I'm wrong, on the blue and white, the blue and white signs that you see out there now, Jimmy John's, 1.7 miles.
They're generally scattered, they don't have a logo.
They're generally scattered, they don't have a logo, right.
So
but-
the company that does it is Virginia Logos, even when they don't have a logo.
Pardon me?
The company that works on that is called Virginia Logos,
Right.
even when they don't have a logo.
That's because in the old days,
Yeah,
on the interstate system, this was the logo signing program.
I got it. I just want to make
Yeah.
sure that,
Yeah.
for a minute, I said, oh, well, now they put logos on. Oh.
So, this is the plan that's been laid out.
One other thing
Yes.
to add, for any business that currently is participating in the TODS program within the project limits, we will also waive the fees for
Right.
that business as well. I believe there's only one, I think it's Jimmy John's.
Yeah, that's why I said that Jimmy John is the one I keep thinking of on
Their fees.
Rio Road East.
Yeah.
Until 2017 as well, October 2017.
Do you know if there are fees to modify the signs that are updated? Is the installation fees are being waived? When they have to be modified?
We're looking at placards that can just be put on the sign and then removed. So if you have to do a U-turn, we're looking at a U-turn placard that can be put on during construction or follow detour or something along those lines, and then removed after construction. So we don't have to put up a new sign. It's just as simple as going in.
Because that's gonna be dependent on the businesses that are participating and where they're located.
Yes.
About what modification means.
And we stole that idea from Henry.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did.
Finally, somebody.
We'll put a little HW on it.
I'll send you a
Logo.
No. All right. Speaking, well, wait a minute here. Yes, Hillsdale. Let's go to I-5. There was a Hillsdale stakeholder meeting, I'm going to say 6 weeks ago now, maybe 2 months ago, 6 to 8 weeks ago. At this meeting, there was a lot of interest and concern expressed over the possible elimination of what had been previously shown as a traffic signal at the intersection of Hillsdale and Greenbrier. And the general issue was a preliminary, what's called traffic signal warrant analysis, which is a very specific technical analysis that's performed to determine whether or not a traffic signal is warranted or not. The preliminary analysis indicated that a traffic signal was not warranted. Now, when VDOT and the Federal Highway Administration hears something like a traffic signal is not warranted, that's a pretty important deal. And there was a lot of concern expressed that, well, this traffic signal was going to be taken out of the project. As you saw at the beginning, that generated some emails, it generated a lot of phone calls, and a lot of concern. And what we said was, well, let's settle down a little bit. Let's find out what the warrant analysis actually said and what this preliminary analysis indicated was that, well, it looks like a traffic signal may not be warranted for the opening year, but it might 20 years in the future for the design year. So one question is, well, what about all the years in between? You know, what about looking at those? What about looking at those years? The other thing that was important was to sit down with people most directly affected, which there's a lot of senior center in this particular intersection or area. And let's hear what, without getting into a signal versus no signal argument, let's listen to what the concerns are and really make sure we understand what those concerns are, because if you can understand them, you can then look at the best possible solutions. That happened on July the 23rd. VDOT's been talking with the city regularly regarding this issue. And what's underway now is that this warrant analysis is being reviewed, refined, and finalized. So we're not at the point to say yes, a signal, or no signal, but while this is being done, while the warrant analysis is being reviewed and refined, continue to talk with all parties to make sure everybody is on the same page, and then fully expect the final results to be available in September. Whether it's our first September meeting or when in September, certainly before the end of September, I would expect we'll have a final warrant analysis, which some is good pieces of are very objective, but there's also some other considerations that are allowed based on the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices that you've heard about before. So VDOT's going to keep working closely with the city and the city's consultant to finalize this warrant analysis, and then we'll know specifically where we stand with respect to that intersection. So for any of you all that are either involved in this particular issue or know people who are, just ask for a little bit of patience. We could get 50 emails that says, gee, I want a signal there, and that's fine. That's fine. People are certainly free to express their view, but this won't be an issue this particular issue won't be one that's decided based on how many people write. It just needs some time to work through this final analysis.
One of the concerns I heard was that warrants will not give enough concession to pedestrians when they cross the area.
Yes. Well, I think that's a big part of the concern, is that without a signal, it could be difficult for some crossing, for the pedestrian crossings, and all of that will be wrapped up in the final signal analysis, right?
Yes, there's a specific warrant
For pedestrians.
There are 9 total warrants in this analysis.
Yeah.
So far, 3 have been looked at. There are other opportunities here to prove that a signal is warranted. It just haven't been done yet. And that's what part of this reviewing and refining is, going back and not just looking at traffic volumes, although that's a part of it, but looking at pedestrians, at buses, trucks, all these different things that factor into whether a traffic signal is included or not. But one thing to be aware of is VDOT has not, neither has FHWA, said there will be no signal. That's
Right.
not it. We've just expressed some concern of what we've seen so far, asked the city to have their engineer go back, look at it a little further, and then come back with some additional information.
I don't know who or how it might have happened, but my understanding is that this signal, at this stakeholder meeting, I guess a comment was made, well, by someone.
Not by VDOT.
That there's not going to be a signal because these 3 warrants weren't met till 2038. the long and short of it is, maybe there will be a signal, maybe there won't. We don't know the answer yet. In September, we'll know.
One of the other important things to understand in this discussion is, as Philip mentioned, we've seen actually 2014 and 2038, not warranted in 2014, warranted in 2038. What the city and their engineer are doing now is looking at those years in between.
Yeah.
And we've been very clear that if the project opens in 2017 or 2018 and it's warranted by 2020, 2021, that's reasonable.
Right.
But 25 years, 20 years probably is not reasonable for a signal.
So we sort of got the beginning and the end, but
Right.
a vast,
So you have to back into the proper year to see when it would be warranted.
yeah, and that's what they'll do.
Now, if I can comment, I haven't had an office until last week in that vicinity for 25 years or so. My observation is there are bus stops, and there are these nursing homes. It's mostly the personnel that works in the nursing homes who are generally lower income people. They use the buses a lot. So whenever you have bus stops, you have to have means of people to cross the street. People that never use buses cannot understand it, that once you get off the bus, you have to get there.
Right.
And from that point of view, I think some means of a pedestrian signal would probably warrant it right now. Because you have quite a bit of traffic and you have the bus stops. You may relocate some of these bus stops or not, depending on what you're doing. But I think they have to keep that in mind, that you may have.
And that's a warrant that has
Right.
not, and usually the trigger is, has one of these warrants been met? If it's met for pedestrians, it doesn't demand, it doesn't say you will put a signal in because the warrant's met, but it says you probably should. And that's something that, quite honestly, hasn't been looked at yet.
Also, I don't know, right now you have a lot of traffic on Greenbrier Drive, which is east-west. Once you have done this project, maybe a lot of that goes away and you have a lot of north-souths that you have little now because obviously
Right.
Pepsi Place, which is where you're using the roadway, dead ends down the street, about 300 yards. Which brings up a trivia item. Pepsi Place will then be renamed Hillsdale Drive, I guess. Once you
Part of Pepsi Place will become Hillsdale.
Yes, so whatever businesses are located there will have to change their station. It's a trivia item. I think it's
Well,
gonna happen, right?
the long and short of it is in September, we'll know more, we'll refine, expand, I guess is really a better word, complete the warrant analysis for all the warrants. Look at the intervals, the intervening years between the opening year, which will be October 2017, and the design year. Then we'll be able to make a reasonable judgment on the traffic signal. And Mayor, we're working very close with Jeanette and her team in the city.
Trying to make sure I understand. So the next step is the city staff will do a more detailed analysis, including if additional data is necessary to acquire that data in whatever form or fashion. Once they have done that analysis, it will then be reviewed by VDOT to make the determination whether the warrants are indeed met.
Well, what happens here is they do an engineering study that includes a warrant analysis. And part of that is a recommendation as to what type of control is done at the intersection. All we've done so far is effectively agree with the warrant analysis that was provided to us for review. But with the recommendation that's made from the engineer that does that, which in this case, the city has a consultant that's working on that, to the city, we would likely agree with that if it's a reasonable recommendation. So it's not that we receive it and make a decision. We either agree or disagree with the recommendation.
But somebody makes a decision. And I'm trying to understand who makes the decision.
VDOT and FHWA will.
Yeah.
Okay,
will
so
review
ultimately, it'd
and-
be VDOT,
Yes.
okay, they will make the decision.
Well, the city makes the decision, we either concur, we either agree or disagree.
Yeah, but just, I know where Mark's going.
Right.
It'll be, you're going to hear from VDOT whether there's going to be a signal or not at this intersection.
And then,
Fine.
that was the next question is, once a determination, I'll go away from decision, determination is made, how is that being communicated out?
Oh,
Communicate to the
well,
public.
I mean, the city has their stakeholder,
So it'll be through the city
Through the-
stakeholder meeting? That's
Yeah.
all I was trying to
And here,
find.
I'm sure.
yeah, and here,
Okay.
I mean,
And here,
yes,
okay,
yeah,
all right.
yeah, absolutely.
One-
And I know the
one-
county.
One will occur before
is-
the other, and I'm just trying to.
Well, we'll don't ask too much of us.
I'm just asking
No,
all the questions
no.
I'm going to get asked.
Yeah, absolutely, no, absolutely. Here, when we know what the results are and the answer, we'll make sure it's communicated broad. We don't have to wait on a meeting for us to communicate something
That's all I'm trying
to
to do.
you. But the important thing is for the city and VDOT to work through this process, because the city is, as you know, managing it as a locally administered project, and they're the ones that should be communicating directly to their stakeholders.
And just sometime in September, we should expect that determination to be finalized.
There is no reason I'm aware of
All right,
that it should take any longer.
all right.
Yes.
And if it does take longer, that will be communicated.
It's not going to take longer.
I wish I had your confidence.
It's not going to take long. Well, I'm a believer in confidence, so it sure should. But yes, if it were going to, if it were going to for some reason, we're going to know about that.
All right, thank you.
If all the different warrants were to come back negative, or they're not triggered until 2025 or 2026, in that hypothetical situation, what does that mean? Does that mean is it illegal to put a signal there? Does it mean the feds won't pay for it or VDOT won't?
No, let's don't, with all due respect, because this issue is so darn sensitive to the people that live around there, can we just not speculate on that? Would you be so kind? It's not illegal, but there are very serious considerations that could be either on the part of VDOT or on the part of the Federal Highway Administration of participating in the funding of a signal that's not warranted. Because that comes with its own set of liabilities. Just like when there's not a traffic signal, when there should be one, creates liabilities. Liabilities are created when there's a signal and engineering studies indicate there shouldn't be. So, you know where it goes from there. Yeah.
Philip, I think Joel actually said it very succinctly the other day, that the objective is to create the safest possible
Right.
intersection with the best possible data, regardless of what that outcome
Yeah.
is.
On to our next favorite topic. No, I think we're down to the kind of 7 general concepts on these signs. And again, I will remind everyone that names are here on Rio Road corners and different names for corners only as examples. As you all know, that we're also going to hear more about that in September when John Martin comes back September the 3rd, Henry. Just for Henry's benefit for a moment, we heard a lot from John Martin and SIR on the research from the focus groups. He asked for a little bit more time to kind of go through a second round with the people that participated. He's doing that since mid-July and in August, and then he'll come back in September with the results.
Could you tell me, because I thought it all had happened.
September 3rd. So these are still just the same placeholder names we've used
Okay,
all the while.
so no reason to get excited.
No reason to get
Rio
excited.
Road.
No reason to get excited yet.
Corners.
No reason yet. The first 3 slides are examples of what could be on the northbound lane. This is the 3, these are all overhead signs. So this would be the 3 overhead signs, the through lanes, the local business lanes, and a third sign that would be a different color, the blue and white color, that would be specifically for whatever the name of the area is and whatever the name of the quadrants are, if indeed there were any quadrants. And whatever is on this sign would also be repeated as a shoulder-mounted sign up on the local lanes. So this is an example.
These would be all side by side.
These would all be side by
Except
side.
the blue
If
one
you'll
is
recall,
repeated, yeah.
we also are moving them, instead of being a couple hundred feet before the intersection, we're moving into between 800 and 900 feet, depending on whether it's the northbound or the southbound sign. So these would all be overhead on the overhead sign structure, side by side. 2 is also the 3 sign option. The difference here is the third sign would only have on it the name of whatever is developed for the intersections. So it would be a smaller sign, and it would just more or less say that, hey, this business area up here is called whatever it might be called, and that would still be on the third sign.
Are you looking for comments or?
Well, let's just go through them, I think, and then we can come
Sure.
back.
All right.
This third option is 2 signs, and still with the through lane sign, still with the local lanes sign, but in this case, just using a different color for the top. And you'll see this in Virginia now a lot with the green and white and brown and white. Brown is for recreational areas. Like if you're driving here from Norfolk, you get close to Busch Gardens, and there's a large overhead sign that says Interstate 64, and in the middle here, there's a brown and white strip that says Busch Gardens. So this is somewhat on that model, but what would be at the top would be, if there is a name for the general intersection area, it would be at the top of that sign. This sign, these arrows would be over the local lanes. Those are the conceptual options for the northbound lanes. Let's go ahead and flip through the southbound lanes, and then we can go back. Is that okay, Henry? Is that okay with everyone?
Okay.
Okay, all right. The southbound options are generally the same, but in the southbound, if you'll recall, we've had the discussion about Charlottesville, and Charlottesville needing to be up on the signs. So this is the same 3 sign option with the through lanes sign. This was a suggestion I think Henry made. This mimics the sign that's down at 250, down at 29 and 250 now, which has 29 and the UVA symbol on it. This white background wouldn't likely be there. That would all be green. That's just a cut and paste thing. would also indicate that, for this example, that you stay in the through lanes to get to Emmett Street or Lynchburg. Lynchburg signing ties in again to what's signed down at the Best Buy ramp now. Rideau Road, Charlottesville would be on the local lanes. Obviously, this requires some more supplemental signing up on the local lanes at the intersection. The third overhead sign is for the intersection area and whatever naming scheme we come up with. This option 1A is one we've looked at before, and I'll say up front, I think this is a no-can-do. This sign is this is trying to replace the third overhead sign almost in total on this second sign, and that's getting to be a pretty heavy lift, an 18-foot sign. It's a bit overwhelming compared to the other one, and I'm just not sure that if we all like that VDOT wouldn't end up saying, well, we just can't do everything everybody likes. So unless there's some extraordinary desire to talk about this one later on, it's probably not going to make our final cut. The next option is back to the 3-sign option, the same as we saw in northbound lanes. Now the local sign just has the name of the intersection on it without the individual quadrants, whether they're named or not. And finally, the last one cleans it up a little bit, gets rid of some redundant words on this sign. South, these are the through lanes. 29 keeps the UVA logo up there. It keeps Emmett Street to indicate that, gee, down the road here, there's a local Charlottesville Street. You can also get to Lynchburg. And remember, Lynchburg is going to be picked up on the signs further down to the south. This one uses the concept of whatever the intersection is named up on the top of this sign. It keeps Charlottesville sign on the local lane. We realize that there's going to have to be some supplemental signing up at the intersection itself that says something about how to get to Charlottesville, but also says something about the fact that trucks aren't allowed on John Warner Parkway, but that's going to have to take place up at the intersection itself. And those are where we are on the 7 concepts. Now, I can tell you that as far as there are peculiarities about each one of these concepts from what's normally done. I'm not sure that's in any of them. But these are concepts that take what's permissible and are trying to use it in a way that best signs this area. Remember, these are long-term signs. This is a major investment as part of the project. It's an opportunity to call some attention to this intersection, if that's indeed what's desired to be done. Otherwise, this is going to end up saying 29 South and Lynchburg, and this will probably say Rideau Road and 631, and that'll be the end of it. But that would be a sad end in my personal opinion. Now, we've looked at the concepts. We can flip back to the first one, and it's 3:25. We can spend a little time getting some thoughts on each one, or you're welcome to send those in as you look at these, however you would prefer to go.
Trying to make sure, these overhead signs, these are still, what is it, it's like 700 feet or something before you actually...
For some reason, I may be getting it wrong. I
600 to
think
800 feet.
I think the southbound signs are a little further away from the intersection itself than maybe it's the other way around.
But then-
850 feet in round thereabouts
But then
from
once
the
you-
intersection.
Once you've made the decision and you've chosen either the local lanes or the through lanes, if you're on the local lanes, there's still going to be, I think you called it
Yes.
a wayfinder.
Shoulder mount, right,
Yes.
Wayfinder
right.
sign off, that would be the big blue sign that could be descriptive
Yes.
of the various.
Go to a 3-sign thing to do. Go back to the first one there.
Yeah.
Right
first-
there, hold
right-
right,
Oh, there you
right
go.
there, right there.
So that could.
These would all be overhead signs,
Right,
but on the local lanes, there would be a shoulder-mounted sign.
right.
That
Similar-
also.
Similar to that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
For any alternative.
yes, yes, for any alternative.
Right, that's what I was
Yes.
trying to make sure I was clear.
Yes. So now go to a
So,
2-sign option.
with this one, this is duplicative of what you would also.
Right. But if this type of option were carried through, on the local lanes, there would also be a shoulder-mounted sign
Right.
that would say this and.
Still say
and more.
Rye Road
Yes,
corners and then
yes,
give a description on where you go for which.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
So these are only the overhead signs, not the shoulder-mounted local signs.
Shoulder mounted, ground mounted.
Ground-mounted, shoulder-mounted.
Close enough.
Specifically where they wouldn't be, it's in the shoulder. So, okay. What's your pleasure? You want to spend some time on each one of them? Just a little time for any thoughts, for general thoughts? It's a lot to take in. I would appreciate you spending some time looking at them and sending any more specific thoughts about this. Not necessarily the name so much. That's a different deal. But we need to be zeroing in on 2 signs or 3 signs.
Well,
And not to be too directive, but I do think that southbound 1A is not something I'd spend too much time on.
Well,
Yeah.
provided you can not compress it, I think it can be compressed where it won't be as monstrous as it looks right now.
Well, there are some specifics with regard to type of lettering, size of lettering, and spacings that is not going to be too easy to move away from.
Well, I understand it, but, Rio Road can also be spelled Rio RD. That's very standard. And then you can start tucking things in. And the distance of the logo 29 and 631 to the edge of the sign is probably allows you to move it out a little bit. So somebody can play with it.
With it, maybe we're talking about 2 different things. I was talking about
You're talking
SV1A.
about this one.
Yeah. They're not, I think our design team has reached their limit of me
Oh, I
playing.
don't know, maybe I need to sit down with them and see what.
Trust me, you won't enjoy it.
But
But anyway, no.
It's not the first time that I.
No.
I think, because I see it elsewhere in the distance from the edge to the actual logo has different dimensions. I see it right here. So, trust me.
We can register that you
I
prefer this.
think I can get you that sign compacted where, yes, it's going to be taller than the sign on the left, but not as tall as it's shown out there.
This is probably, in all seriousness, this is probably a no-can-do.
If you
This
made up
is-
your mind, then.
Yeah,
maybe-
well, it's not just me, Henry. I mean, to be just, I think the message I'm getting is, Philip, you might like this, but it's probably not going to happen.
Well, I'm sorry, it's the best sign. But if you want to get rid of it, I can't stop you.
Well, I'll give you a different opinion, because I think that it is important to have the local and business on the right hand. I like 2
Yeah.
signs. I don't like 3 signs. I like 2 signs. I do think it's important to have the local and business on the right-hand side. I think that is too much information on the right-hand side, but I do like the Rio Road corners, just a little blue strip, if that could be put in there.
Yeah, I have to tell you that I give it a lot of thought while I was sitting here watching it. Rio Road Corners is wonderful if you're going to spend $2 million promoting Rio Corners. And the whole thing is going to have maybe a circular road, about half a mile out, and you're creating that as a tremendous shopping venue. But I don't think we're there, and we're not going to spend $2 million of advertising to promote Rio Corners. So if Rio Corners was an attraction, it would be nice, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I saw it's very elegant, it's right here. But it doesn't lead to anything. Who knows what Rio Corners are? So we have to deal with what we got. And if I can't have this, because you don't let me redesign it and make it work, then this is the next best thing, the 3 signs.
The 3 signs.
But I agree with him. 2 signs is the most elegant thing. And all it takes is a little bit of reworking this real estate. And I've done plenty of graphic design to work with very minute real estate and catching up with,
Henry, in all honesty, I'm not arguing with you on this one.
Hey.
There's been a lot of discussion back and forth.
Maybe it's too
on
creative,
this.
too elegant. Can't happen.
I've been told all of these are no good.
No,
We're going to deal with it. No, that's not true.
Absolutely.
That's not true. That's not true. But well, no, I hear you, and I respect your opinion there. I really do.
Well, thanks.
And if you have some ideas on that one, by all means, please send them.
My
Send them
ideas
in.
are that it can be.
But I do think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to lead any of these people astray. I think the lettering and the spacings, and I may be wrong, Owen, but I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I think the lettering and the spacings has gotten to be pretty tight with the Federal Highway Administration. That there's not a lot of creativity allowed there. And by that, Henry, I mean there are templates for each one of these about how big the shield is going to be, where it's going to be from the edge.
Maybe you have to send me the template.
Oh, I can. I can. I'm not trying to discourage you. We talked about this a lot, and I've tried to push the limit on a few of these myself. The font is all
Scrutinized to down to.
right.
I understand the font has to stay. I understand all this stuff.
If you have some ideas, Henry, please. I mean, as you have before, sketch them out.
Well, this one I would have to do more thoroughly. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. This is similar to license plates. They're standardized as far as size and font type and size and logos.
Have you noticed how license plates have changed in Virginia over the years?
Well, they have, but they've changed consistently. All the license plates have changed.
Yes.
And this is, speaking of, from a graphic design perspective, I can't speak on the engineering, but there's a lot of studies that have been done about the readability. As a matter of fact, the fonts have been changed nationwide.
Yeah, no, I know.
To assist older drivers. So when you start smushing it down to.
You can't smush it down. Look, that's not going to happen. We're not going to be able to smush it down. We're not going to be able to change the size. We're not going to be able to change any spacing. I like this sign. I mean, I remember setting and sketching this up. I liked it. Then it got to be 18 feet tall, and nobody else was too thrilled about it. So, but Henry, if you have some ideas, please
I just tell you that there is plenty to play with a lot of green that's out there. That's all.
The size of the green won't.
Look. You see the distance here? Mm-hmm. You see the distance here? Okay, right here. This can move out to about here. So look at this. Now you have an opportunity to move this up, and you move this up, and the whole sign gets smaller.
Give it a shot, man. I'm willing to carry the water. I'm not kidding you. give it a shot.
Mark and I agree that this is the best sign, right, Mark?
I'm there, except that I agree with them that the blue on the bottom is just too much.
Well, then it's not the best sign.
Look, we're just getting some ideas. We're not going to fix it here today. So, yeah.
Lou, would you mind going to southbound option 3?
Well, going back to the sign that,
Well, wait. Let's let Morgan go. Let's let Morgan go.
Sorry.
Let's let Morgan go.
I agree with Mark. I think having the local, perhaps local and business up there is very helpful. If I'm trying to put myself in a neutral situation, I'm coming through here, I see 29 on both of these. I get very confused as to which one I'm supposed to be on. I like the branding and the railroad corners or whatever it is, but I think not having the local,
no,
something that distinguishes the through from the local is.
I agree with you.
Did we decide having through on the first sign was a bad idea for some reason?
No,
That may be another
we didn't decide that.
signal to help the brain differentiate between back 29 and this 29. But I see potential confusion without having something that makes clear that the one on the right are local 29 lanes.
Okay.
I think we're all in agreement that you want the local end business. That's
Okay. Are we? Do you want you want this sign to say local and business?
I think that's important.
Yeah, I do. Frankly, I do too. I do too. Okay. All right.
Can we go back to the bad sign?
Just hang on 1 minute. Let's get, because it's 20 till, I just want to give everybody else a chance to, the answer is yes, we can, but just hold on.
One other real quick point, and this is probably the legal part of my mind, but 29-2631, if I read that literally, it means I take 29 to another destination. I can't stay on 29 until I get back to 29, and that's sending perhaps the wrong message as well. And this may be some sort of regulatory, I see Dave is probably amused by this, but like 29 and 631 or something to that effect.
Good point.
Okay. Let's just be sure we're getting down to comments now without trying to solve them all necessarily. But okay. So local, well, all right. Anybody else, or we want to go back to Henry here for a minute?
Well, at the risk of making the city angry at me, I'm not sure there's a need to put Emmett Street on this one,
I'm not sure there is either.
especially
I'm
if you got one down at near High.
And that's not something the city has pushed. The city, I mean, we certainly heard loud and clear, Charlottesville needs to be here somewhere, and I agree.
Totally agree with
Yeah.
that. Totally agree.
Yeah.
And maybe it should be, well, never mind.
Well, Emmett Street means something to the university community.
Yeah.
If it does, for me, I have to disagree with Henry on, the bigger sign is just too much information.
Let's go back to it. Because I find ways to shorten it. And the information is important. Because you want to be in the local or business lane, but depending where you're going to turn, you still want to know which one of the two lanes you want to be in. Because if you're in this lane and you want to go to a library, you're screwed. If you want to go to Fashion Square, you're in this lane,
That
you're screwed
depends on where the
again.
wayfinders.
However, we have two things mentioned, and if you want to reduce the sign, maybe we just have the most important thing, Fashion Square, library, on one line. So now you already eliminated that much. So you already picked up, whatever, 18 inches or something, 1.5 out of the 6 inches. And then, as I say, move the logo side, you move this out. You can do things, not violating, keeping the fonts and, keeping the spacing. I realize what the spacing is between lines and all.
The only thing I would say here is you can't change the spacing and keep it all at the same
No.
But I hear what you're saying.
No. Because this is a minimum spacing. This is not a spacing you have to have. Here you have some opportunity to do things. But,
What if this sign kept the local and business, but assuming there was a name of the intersection, that it had local and business, which I'm 100% with you.
we're all in agreement.
That's got to have that. I also think local and business probably ought to be on the pavement. That's another discussion. And this was with the white line, with the white distinction, was just a panel with the name of the intersections. And then you pick up your ground mounted signs that you're gonna have time to go from this lane to that lane at the intersection, if that's what you want to
Yeah,
do.
but you want
People are
to
gonna do
minimize
that anyway.
that. You want them to get into the right lane as soon as possible, rather than searching.
So now, if you go to the, two slides up, right there. Picture that in your head. Go back. Here.
I think, I like something that Mark was pointing out. If you go back to SB3, we're defining the message that we have at the top. It's in white letters on blue background, which will be coordinated with the Rio Corners signs or whatever
Right.
they'll be called. So if you just replace Rio Road Corners there with local and business, I think you've effectively created wayfinding.
Oh, that's kind of a cool idea.
Oh, use the blue and white, but just call it local and business.
And then people will see that, and the next sign they see that matches that has more
Yeah,
information.
that's
about
cool.
corners.
That's great.
That's a pretty good idea there.
Yeah, if,
I do worry, Henry, just thinking about a person who's never been there before and driving down this road 45 miles an hour with trucks passing you on both sides, and you're trying to look up and read that sign. You've got about 1 second. How much information can I assimilate in that
I
1
hear you.
second?
One thing that makes sense is what Dave just said. You make the blue sign local and business.
Yeah.
And then the next sign tells you library, fashion.
Right.
That makes sense. You got a damn.
Dang, no, engineers aren't allowed to think that creative. Must be something wrong with that. That's pretty darn good. I like it, it's pretty good.
Okay. I think you can sell that.
So then we would have the two sign, we would have two overhead signs.
Good.
We would have we would retain, I think you retain Emmett Street on the sign myself, if the city wouldn't want it there, it could be off. I think that's kind of a no harm done, no harm. Because you're going to pick up Lynchburg, and you're going to pick up the UVA logo down at I started to say Hampton Road, where are we? Down at Best Buy 29 and 250. This, keep the blue and white, but say the local and business.
Yes.
Now, we still need to deal with Morgan's. Well, no, because now you've got local and business on there, so that changes the context of the 29.
Yes.
Oh, and this needs to say 2 here, doesn't it? Doesn't need to over here, though, right? It needs to over here.
Your call.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Does anybody know if that word "to" can be moved a little bit to the right?
Well, I'm gonna, Owen, move something on this sign. Just, no, well, I'll find out. Yeah.
Or do we consider it a name?
Well, I think we need to look at that. I think the word, there's some strictness on the words that can be on the signs as well. It's, the only reason I don't push against something I don't want to lose, and that always bothers me.
Is
But,
that the standard UVA logo?
to be honest with you, I just copied this. I probably violated something.
I know this
This is what's on the sign down
I guess
at,
it kind of tells me the
64.
stadium, something's athletics.
this is what's at 29,250.
Yeah.
Only there's no white. It's just is that an oval logo? That's this logo.
Actually, the white background that punches it out some more.
The V and the sabers are used on pavement markings around UVA as well.
Okay.
So I think it's,
I grabbed that one because it's what's on the other side. Just that.
Okay, we solved all the problems with.
So now we have the south, we have the through signs. We've got the distance, we've got the local street that admittedly is down the road a bit. We've got the local and business sign. I'm gonna make that change and send it back. Well, I don't need to do it. You can. Will you do that for us, Owen? Just have somebody take that out and do local and business, and let's take a look at it. Okay.
Hope it fits.
I'll be darned. Maybe we have it. Mayor, you okay? Mark?
I'm happy.
Morgan?
Reach agreement. Crazy.
Consensus.
How does that happen?
How does this happen? All right, all right,
Time to wrap this up.
all right. Well, Dave, I probably owe you some kind of case of beer or something. Or I shouldn't say that. Soda pop or whatever it's. All right, then look, in all seriousness, we're going to move forward with developing this option. And then what we need to do is talk with our designers about the ground mounted signs. So again, we put everything in context of the whole intersection now. Okay.
And then we only have to deal with the Todd sign, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We're going to need to bring back the committee with the panel with some specifics now on. We said we're going to get these applications out in August. It's August. So that means 2 meetings from now, we need to be able to say, we've passed out applications, we've heard from however many businesses it might be. And on September 3rd, just to remind everybody, 2 meetings from now, John Martin will be back to talk about the follow-up with the focus groups. And I think that's really going to be more around whether or not there seems to be a desire to name the corners or the quadrants. I can tell you personally, I'm still going to push for that, but if the desire from local people isn't, then to do that. then we
That's
can.
planned for the September 4th meeting?
3rd or 4th, whatever that meeting is, yes.
Yeah, okay.
The first meeting in September.
All right, thank you.
And he's on schedule to come back to do that.
Okay.
Well, if we had another agenda item, I think I'd strike it, just, but we don't. We don't. New business and wrap up. Chip? Morgan?
I just want
Yes,
to
sir.
say it again, still want to get over to see the Signals Operations Center at some point
Yeah,
in time.
let's get summer
Just
behind us.
Don't want to
And
forget it.
yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that.
An engineer, I'm going to love that kind of stuff, sorry.
Does the whole group want to go?
Yeah, we're going to arrange it for the whole group to go, and we'll have a meeting there. But just give me a couple of weeks on
No
that.
problem, I
A
just
couple
want
of
to make sure it
meetings.
doesn't accidentally.
I'm not going to forget it. I'm not going to forget it. Good.
I'm with Mark, I want to have a field trip.
I want to be there. You know I'm teasing you. You know I'm teasing.
A lot of great-
Look, in all seriousness, I was thinking about this. And had a chat with the secretary yesterday morning after he had a chance to come back, and he made a comment here, and he made it to me again yesterday morning about just the satisfaction in seeing something that started March a year ago and come through, not just come so far, but come through some tough ground but where people who disagree can still come together and move through a project and stick with it and move it forward. I know VDOT is getting ready to use the same model on some other projects, and it really says a lot about the work you all have done in all seriousness to change, to influence the way this project is going to be delivered. And it's a lot of fun to be part of it. So thank you. Thanks to everybody. And we'll see you here on the 20th, August the 20th. Take care. Blue, thank you.